and dish some real talk, reality. I'm talking about renewal. I wrote this speech in hopes of delivering it at a competition as my final round speech, and I didn't make it there. But I have been feeling so passionately about it that it's been swirling in my mind for over a month now. Because I believe that everybody needs a reset. And this is my thought recomposition. And it's funny because I have been wanting to do this for a month and I keep putting it off. And it's because I need a haircut. My color is so unbelievably faded. I need new color. What am I going to wear? I have a cold. And I woke up this morning and I put on my favorite t-shirt here that says, "Get out of your own way." And I thought, this is it. This is what I need to do. It doesn't matter what my hair looks like. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing. I just need to get this off my heart. What I'm talking about is just self-regenerating. It's a radical change. The one thing that people cannot renew or recover is time. Most of us put our hopes, our ambitions, and our pursuit of utilizing our gifts on hold, and we cite these worn-out reasons. The trouble with those reasons is that they're acceptable, but only as a temporary objection. Too many people age into someone who regrets not pursuing their ideas and being their own worst dream stealer. Most of us spend our entire adult life building other people's dreams and falling into this mind trap that if we're a good team player, that somehow we will be propelled upward and that'll allow for an opening for our own team. Thing is how can we be an authentic player in the story of our lives if we're not the healthiest, happiest version of us, of ourselves? We can only fake happiness and satisfaction for so long before it starts to affect us. If we're fortunate, it will only cause this nagging that we keep to ourselves. But most of the time, it's going to manifest into some extreme ways that seek to destroy our relationships. How often do we hear people say that they're not happy with their lives and they walk away from the people in them? And they walk away from relationships as a habit over the course of their lives. I can't help but wonder if these serial people quitters that pursue happiness via new relationships are actually just people who are unfulfilled because of something unrelated to other people. I'm thinking more like this. I wonder if they would be more satisfied with other areas of their life if they had self-fulfillment. What if they had these great ideas and these great gifts inside them, but they're too afraid to share them? Self-fulfilled individuals have more satisfying interpersonal relationships. People who aren't afraid to fail embrace failure. And it's courageous, but it's also part of the journey of almost every person who has ever achieved success. Successful people embrace failure and genuinely own it. How many people right now feel like you're not a genuine version of yourself? How many feel like you're exhausted from going through the motions of being who you think everyone else thinks that you need to be? Would you give anything to do the things that you daydream of? Do you have the guts to go after a dream that you keep to yourself? Are you doing your own dream work? I always thought that I was kind of a born motivator in terms of my personality. I've always been able to lift people up. I believe that while it's a satisfying feeling to be able to motivate someone to move in their desired direction through motivational talks, motivation is simply just a first step, and it's often wavering. And it's fleeting if we don't have somebody constantly there cheering us on. And it's definitely fulfilling to inspire others to seek their calling through these inspirational pep talks. But it's more powerful to help people transform into their purpose. That's what we all truly need to do. In order to transform, we have to first be motivated, then inspired by stories of those who are like us, but have risen out of some seemingly impossible situations to these heart-tugging tales of beating the odds and winning big. I aspire to help just one person in any corner of the world transform from a mindset of, I can never achieve my dreams. I mean, dreams are what you do when you're sleeping. Dreams are just fantasy. To this soul-scorching, get out of my way, Satan belief in our own capability. To show someone how to super glue closed the mouths of the voices that tell them, who do you think you are? You grew up in a home built on steel mill sludge. Who do you know that's done anything like that? Or simply, you're crazy. And most often, these voices are the ones in our very own minds. Sure, If you dare to share your dreams with others, they may say those things to your face and most likely behind your back, but they're actually much easier to block out than our own self-limiting mindset. We can walk away from other people and refuse to replay their words, but it takes an immense amount of discipline to shut down the negative thoughts that swim laps through our minds. One minute our thoughts are floating effortlessly and with determination, but if we don't guard them, those thoughts can quickly turn labored and tire us, fooling us into thinking that we're drowning, and then we quit. This story displays my point perfectly. There was a woman by the name of Florence Chadwick. She was born in San Diego, California in 1918, and she began competing as a swimmer at age 6. When she was 10, she competed in this 2.5-mile night race where the water was rough, and she came in 4th. When she was 11, she won first place in a 6-mile race across choppy waters in the San Diego Bay Channel. And for the next couple of decades, she was a competitive swimmer. She became the first woman to swim across the English Channel back and across. She also swam across the Straits of Gibraltar. And then on July 4th, 1952, Florence was 34, and she attempted to become the first woman to swim across the 21-mile Catalina Channel off the coast of California. And the weather was less than ideal that day. The ocean was really cold and the fog was really thick, so she could barely see her supporting boats that were following her. The currents and the tide were rough, and there were sharks around her. But she made the decision to attempt the swim that day, thinking that the fog would lift. But the fog never lifted. Her mother and her trainer were in those support boats, and they kept encouraging her to keep swimming. And Americans were watching her on TV as her support crew members on the boats were firing rifles at the sharks in an attempt to keep them away from her. And she continued to swim for 15 hours, and about that point she started to question her ability to complete the swim. And then at 15 hours and 55 minutes, she stopped and asked her support crew to help her onto the boat. The fog was still very dense, and she had almost no visibility, and she couldn't see the coastline, and she had no idea where she was at. It turned out that she was less than a mile from the coast, and some stories say that she was even half a mile from the coast. And she most certainly would have accomplished that feat if she had just stayed in the water a little longer. Afterwards, she told a reporter, "Look, I'm not excusing myself, but if I could have seen the land, I know I could have made it." That's the thing, is we don't get to see. She allowed the unknown, the fog, to keep her from her goal, all because she couldn't see with certainty that she was close. She tricked her mind into believing that she was getting nowhere. But 2 months later, she tried again, and the fog was just as dense, but this time she didn't stop. She made even better time. 13 hours and 47 minutes, she broke the previous 27-year record by more than 2 hours. She became the first woman to complete the swim. Florence's story illustrates what happens to all of us. So many of us start toward our dream, and then we jump ship when success isn't quickly attained. We stop short, never realizing how close we are to winning. The fear of failing overwrites the inherent desire to not self-sabotage. We always hear the speeches on teamwork, but I believe the limitations to seeing teamwork be successful lie in the unique inner workings of the individuals. Teamwork requires us to be flexible. It requires us to make allowances, to take the lead at times, and to act quickly on our feet, and to think outside the box. But I've come to the realization that if we can do those things as part of a team, why aren't we always doing those things for our own dream work? I know that I have dreams buried so deep inside me that have finally started to float to the top. Dreams that initiated way back in my childhood. And I recognize that from the moment that I was laying in my bed as a teen, daydreaming about using my gifts, I also immediately started to throw dirt on them. Every time my dreams flashed through my mind, I shoveled more dirt on them because I believed that I didn't have the resources to make them happen. I could never have spoken about those dreams because I imagined that others would laugh and pick up their own shovels and help me throw more dirt and more layers of dirt on them. Heck, there are people in my lives that would actually, that I love and whose opinions I value, that wouldn't stop at dirt. They would go out and write concrete mixers and pour that on top of my dirt. And I used to call those people my family and my friends and my confidants, but now I just call them wrong because it is wrong. You see, our true gifts and purposes cannot permanently be weighted down with concrete or even steel beams, because those burial grounds of our dreams will eventually be overcome with erosion, and they will keep being revealed. Don't spend the remainder of your life giving credence to the wrong voices. If you have a dream or a vision that continues to revisit you, you owe it to yourself. Oh, actually, no, you don't. You owe it to your children. You owe it to your future children, your future grandchildren. You owe it to the world to not take it to the grave with you. And I know what you're thinking, because I think those same things too. That's good advice, but you don't know my story. You don't know my journey. You don't know where I'm at right now. No, I don't. And I mean this respectfully, but it doesn't matter. And the fact that it matters to you is your number one limiting belief. I've heard so many talented people with mind-blowing, impressive ideas that never even take a step towards sharing their vision with the world. Honestly, I had an old pile of excuses that I've finally been tossing into an incinerator. Things like, if I only had the money to do this, or if only I was more resourceful, or if I only knew the right people, or once my children are in a good place, or once I meet the person of my dreams, or once I'm at my ideal weight, or if I were only more lovable and more charismatic. I could go on, but I refuse to regurgitate that negativity. And I haven't tossed those lies into an incinerator in one big bundle in this ceremonious act of self-enlightenment. That would be beautiful. That would be ideal. However, it's been more of an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly kind of house cleaning. I've been living in a very messy, twisted, and confusing architecture that I call my mind. And I knew I had to start somewhere, so I picked up my first mess that I loathed, yet I cling to. And that was, once my children are in a good place. I tossed that into the incinerator when I came to the undeniable realization that my children are the keepers of their own self-limiting ideas. And while I can feed them the antidote, only they can choose to swallow it. But even more powerful was that I realized that I didn't get what I needed from my parents, who didn't get what they needed from their parents, and on and on. And I came to the realization that someone has to be the one to break the negative patterns in our family history. Awareness is the first tool we need to start that. Then we need constant vigilance to stay aware, and that's the second. And I'm painfully aware that what I do, what I say, and more importantly, what I did not or do not do, most certainly determines where my children, my grandchildren, great-great-great-great-grandchildren will ever dare to go. And so I take it as my responsibility to take my family higher. It's all in the conscious awareness. Once you're aware, how can you throw another shovel of dirt? So I decided to become an example of stepping up and doing things that people called me crazy for doing. I enrolled in hygiene school to pursue a new career at 40. I was pursuing an associate's degree from a community level college when I held a bachelor's from a widely known institution of higher learning. I went from Penn State to Pensacola State. And not only did I pursue it, but I achieved it. I was showing those that I am a role model to, that a no excuses attitude is the only no attitude that is acceptable to adopt. You see, my first semester in hygiene school, I got an email from my husband. He was deployed. It was September and he was due home in December, but his email said, "I'm not coming home for my R&R. Mom and Jeannie, his stepmother, are not doing well, so I'm going to Oregon. We will do what we need to do when you finish hygiene school so that you can be successful." I thought, what? What had I just read? Long story short, that was the unexpected end to my marriage, and I had to hold it together to get through the next 2 years of hygiene school hell with no emotional support and no explanation or ability to even call him to get anything near closure. In a nutshell, I obviously made it through. I had to be a role model for my children. I had to keep my dream of perpetuating a bigger future for future generations of my family alive. So, obviously, after the divorce, another excuse I used to stop me from chasing my gifts was that I didn't have the money. And I bought that for a while, until I tore that excuse up into a million tiny pieces and I sprinkled them into the fire. At the end of January of this year, I found myself unexpectedly unemployed. Do you see a theme here in my story? There's a lot of unexpectedlys. I'm reasonably reemployed doing something non-clinical that I absolutely love. It's scary, and honestly, I'm not exactly sure how my rent, my car payment, my bills are going to get paid because I have overextended all that I have to get through to this point. But I'm confident as I'm here telling this short synopsis of how to rise above 1.0 that this is exactly where I am supposed to be. And I'm not scared, nor do I stay awake at night worrying about it. Am I crazy? Or maybe I know that this is just temporary. Maybe it's because I realize that once you burn something to ashes, you can never restore it. The only choice you have is to sprinkle it like fertilizer. Use those ashes like fertilizer. One more lie I will share that I have turned to ashes. The lie that I'm not resourceful enough. True story. I used to have no one in my life that could help me with some good old boy club or some good old fashioned nepotism. And I could have stopped there and bought into that limiting belief that I can't change my friends and my family. But I rose up in May or June of 2016 and I grabbed this heavy piece of wood that lie was carved into. I picked up that heavy lie that I had no network, and using all of my strength, I flung it into an incinerator. I asked a friend if she would go with me on the inaugural Opportunities at Sea, now known as Mentorship at Sea, so we could try mentorship and networking. And she was on board, but she didn't have the funds right away. So I paid for us both, and then she bailed on me a week or two before it, and I almost didn't go. I was leaving for a 3-week trip to Europe the day after that was over anyway. But then I remembered that I no longer had that lie to cuddle up with available. So I went anyway. And I haven't missed one since, actually. I'm still financially shaky, and I'm now somewhat underemployed. You see, my original dream changed since I started networking. But it didn't change because I was unable to achieve it. It changed because I was given mentorship from those who have succeeded and from colleagues that feed me when I feel like I'm weak and starving. My dream has transformed because I've been transformed. If I can very vulnerably tell you to stop making excuses and go after your own life of abundance and fulfillment, given that I'm still in pursuit of mine under less than ideal circumstances that in the natural appear impossible, thus appear making me, crazy, then you have no excuse as to why you can't rise up and change your future too. If not for yourself, but for all of the eyes that are watching you. And for all of the generations to come, because it's not about you. It's about your gifts. It's about what your gifts are going to do to transform others, transform our world, transform your family history. That's where our legacy lives. It's great to be a team player and to help other people build their dreams. Teamwork is necessary to keep other people's dreams alive, and it's absolutely and totally respectable. But I am speaking to you, to those of you who can't deny or escape your secret daydreams. Your purpose and your destiny can't start until you form your own team. The first step that you have to take is a walk that's all by yourself, and it sucks, but it's so worth it. And you have to own that walk. And if you truly don't know what your purpose is, if you feel unfulfilled, but you don't know what your purpose is, then you have to first seek a path of self-awareness. And let me tell you, that sucks too. But either way, you've got to take a step forward. No excuses. And if you need a map, there's an app for that. Okay, maybe there's not. But who's to say that you can't be the one to create it? And after you have burned all of your excuses, use that fire to ignite an explosion for all of the world to see your beautiful light. That's it. That's it. Go start those fires, my friends. Thanks.